Despite how Squid Game ended, there are a lot of ways for the story to continue in Squid Game Season 2, with or without the existing characters. Squid Game, a Netflix survival drama, ended with Oh Ilnam, the creator behind the game, dying as protagonist Seong Gihun's watch. But that doesn't rule out a second season. Squid Game, which premiered on Netflix in September, quickly became the most popular program on the platform. The Netflix executive and the rest of the actors are likely to want to capitalize on Squid Game's early success by developing a second season. The last episodes of Squid Game served to wrap up the board plot arc in the new Death Game series. Officer Hwang-Dong-Hyuk is shot in the shoulder during the last encounter with the frontman, falls over a cliff, and falls into the water below. The frontman who shot him is also revealed to be the long-lost brother he was hunting for, JUN-HO. Meanwhile, just one of the 456 players in the Squid Game has survived. Seong Gihun wins the final game and receives the 45.6 billion won prize from Squid Game. Gihun puts his winning to good use by helping the North Korean defector Kang Se-byuk and disgraced businessman Cho Sang-woo. Does this by rescuing says little Byuk's brother from an orphanage, placing him in the care of Sang's mother, and providing them with sufficient funds to live comfortably. As the Squid Game comes to a close, it appears that all loose ends have been neatly wrapped up. However, on his way to the airport to meet his daughter in the United States, Ji-hoon notices the salesman recruiting a player for Squid Game through a game of Dakji. Just like he was recruited, while Ji-hoon is unable to confront the salesman after the conclusion of Squid Game.
What are you looking at, mother?
He does manage to obtain his card from the potential recruit. As Ji-hoon prepares to board the plane, he uses the card to contact the organizers of the Squid Game and exchange threat with the person on the end of the line. He then abruptly disembarks from the aircraft and rushes out of the airport, his face set on his promises to put an end to the games for good. Despite the fact that Ilnam, the originator of Squid Games, is no longer alive, this closing scene reveals that not only will the games continue, but that Ji-hoon would go to any length to stop him. Here are some of the curiosities that needs to be filled in Season 2. This is what we are expecting. Number 1. It may be the frontman or someone else to take the lead. In the Squid Game universe, the death of Ilnam leaves a power vacuum. There will, however, be no shortage of VIPs fighting for the top position in the organizations of Ilnam left behind. Someone else may take over the role of the boss, similar to James Wan's Saw films. If it isn't the front man, commonly known as JUN-HO, a new character might be created in Squid Game Season 2 to take over the position. After all, as Ji-hoon realized before the conclusion, the death of one guy isn't enough to put an end to Squid Game's long-term activities. Number 2. Jun-ho could still be alive. Jun-ho, the largest threat to the continuation of the games, is presumed dead when he is shot by JUN-HO in the shoulder and falls into the sea. However, the shot isn't fatal, and his corpse is never shown on screen. Also, neither JUN-HO nor his workers were shown making sure that Jun-ho is actually dead. While the final scene confirms that Squid Game is back in full swing, this doesn't necessarily mean that Jun-ho is dead and that his neo-Noi detective story is over. If the evidence he gathered for the police was swept under the rug, Jun-ho could already be planning his next move, and he might even team up with Ji-hoon in Squid Game Season 2.
In line with the schedule.
Before we even continue to the next point, don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comment down below.
It sounds so romantic.
Similarly to Season 1, this might allow showrunners to bring a whole new... When one of the VIPs said that the games in Korea are the finest this year, it was a little bit fascinating information that might give further indications regarding Season 2. This suggests that other versions of the Squid Game are taking place throughout the world. Squid Game might build on its issues of wealth disparity by focusing on a version of the games placed elsewhere, but using children's game from a different region and culture. Number 4. Squid Game Season 2 could be a period piece. Jun-ho discovers that Squid Game has been going on for decades as he infiltrates the frontman's secret sanctum. This is when he learns that his long-lost brother, In-ho, has won the games. Jun-Ho also unearths extensive information on Squid Game's current and former participants, many of which date back decades. Jun-Ho, disguised as one of the personnel in charge of Squid Game's day-to-day operation, uncovers a wealth of information that reveals the scope of the business. All of this evidence points to the possibility of Season 2 being set in the past. Season 2 might focus on how Ilnam began the games or how In-ho won and ascended to the top of the frontman ranks, because Squid Game appears to have existed for decades. The plot might be entirely unconnected to the main protagonist from Season 1, and any of the time periods could give an interesting pattern for Season 2 to be developed out. Squid Game has a lot of potential to continue its unique take on the death games genre at an era which viewers seem to be completely enamored with horror movies and shows.